Gallup first asked Americans about interracial marriage back in the 1950s. What do you think Americans think about interracial marriage today? Gallup first asked Americans about interracial marriage between blacks and whites, back in the 1950s. At that point, perhaps not surprisingly, a very small percent of Americans said they approved. But notice, as recently as 1994, not that long ago, we still had less than half of Americans who said they approved of interracial marriage between whites and blacks. In fact, it wasn't until 1997 that we had a tipping point where the percent who approved of interracial marriage moved above the majority point. That's increased slightly in recent years. We just updated this in our annual Minority Relations poll, and now we have about 3/4 of Americans who approve. Interestingly, when we look just at blacks themselves, we find that approval of interracial marriage is not unanimous. Even in the black community, about 10% or a little more of black Americans, based on our most recent polls, say no, they do not approve of marriage between blacks and whites. There is an age factor involved here, particularly among Americans who are 65 years of age and over. Approval of marriage between blacks and whites drops down significantly compared to those who are under 65 years of age. What about region of country? One might say, well, in the South, certainly approval of interracial marriage is lower than elsewhere. Not so. You see the data here by the 4 major regions we use here at Gallup to divide our data. Not a lot of significant change across these 4 regions. Finally, what about politics? Are Republicans less likely to support interracial marriage than Democrats? No, they're virtually tied. Independents, those who don't have a political affiliation either way, somewhat more likely to approve of interracial marriage than either Republicans or Democrats. Join us tomorrow here in the Daily Briefing. We'll have new data from our weekend Gallup poll. I'm Dr. Frank Newport, editor-in-chief of the Gallup poll, with Democracy on Demand.